Welcome back. The city has been talking about Boulder's energy future for several months now, and with us today is David Driscoll, the Executive Director of Community Planning. Welcome to Inside Boulder, David.
Thanks, good to be here.
So, as you know, the City Council has supported the idea of localization as the strategic framework for studying and pursuing this project. Can you explain what that means?
Sure, it's actually a term that we came to in trying to describe the set of goals that we heard from folks in the community when we started talking with them. Starting about September of last year, we held a series of stakeholder meetings with large utility customers, with small businesses, reps from CU, a whole bunch of people came, and some of our activist community. And they started talking about, well, what are we trying to get to in terms of this energy future? And we heard a lot about not just carbon reduction, which we knew was going to be a big priority, but we heard also a lot about rate stability. So knowing that our electricity rates are going to be going up significantly in the coming years just because of the price of fuel, and the desire to start thinking about how we're going to change the system so we don't rely so much on external fuel sources and have more stable rates long term. We heard a lot about wanting to continue energy efficiency, again, sort of the idea that having to buy less energy was going to be something we want to get to in the long term. We heard about wanting to be an innovation center, about being able to be the place that incubator businesses start that are developing green energy and clean energy systems. And we heard a lot about social equity and wanting to make sure that we're taking care of people in the community for whom cost is an impact. All of those things tended to inform a set of goals that were about both decision-making and management of energy, that we wanted to be able to be more active in making decisions locally and not just be the receivers of decisions that are made. And also the desire to literally localize in terms of technology, in terms of maximize the extent to which we can invest in energy efficiency, that we can invest in what we call distributed generation, so solar on top of rooftops and solar gardens and other types of local generation, which reduces our need to import energy from outside. And so localization was the term that we really sort of came to talk about what is it we're trying to get to.
So David, in some of those discussions, it was either we renew the existing franchise or some form of with Xcel, or we municipalize. Is the city going to municipalize, or is there a third or fourth option that is something in between those?
So I'll link that back to the idea of localization. So when we, I think a lot of people see this as a decision, and there will be a decision at some point about how we're going to achieve these goals. But I think a lot of people have looked at this as a municipalization discussion. Do we stick with Xcel or do we municipalize? That's why localization has been sort of the strategic framework we've put out there to talk about, well, what are we trying to get to? The decision about municipalization or staying with Xcel is a means to an end. So big part of the conversation is, well, what's the end? What are we trying to get to? And if we understand that more clearly, that can help inform decisions we need to make about the means to the end. And I think there may be other options in between or parallel to staying with Xcel or municipalizing, and that's really what the coming months are going to be focused on. So we've landed on this idea of localization. We're working to articulate that more clearly to the community so they understand what we're talking about. And then it's going to be evaluating what are the alternative paths to get us to this goal that we've said is important to us.
And as far as the next steps in this process, is there a place for residents and businesses to have a say in how their electric bills will come to them?
Absolutely. We've, well, as I said, we started stakeholder meetings actually in September. We did a number of public meetings under the banner of Boulder Matters, which was a whole host of community issues that we were talking with the community about. We are right now in the process of developing a pretty robust communications plan and a public participation program for the coming 6 months. And then we'll see where we're at in June. But ultimately, this is a decision that voters will make. There will be, at some point, a ballot item related to a decision about what's the means to the end for our energy future.
So it sounds like we've gathered a lot of input from key stakeholders, residents, businesses, and ultimately the voters are going to say yay or nay to what council puts forward on the ballot. So David, thank you for coming and joining us inside Boulder to talk a little bit about Boulder's energy future. We've been speaking with David Driscoll about the process the city has gone through to determine what might be its energy future and what steps will be taken over the next several months. We'll be back with more Inside Boulder after this.